a quick update. You're like the last in our series of graduates, people who have just graduated. And so if you would just kind of fill folks in. First of all, this is Chelsea Gaynor. And Chelsea, how long have you been a part of the community at Southminster? Trying to remember how many years it's been.
Well, I started probably visiting right before I got pregnant with Easton. So probably going on 7 years or so. I started visiting with Cody and his family.
Yeah. And Easton is how old now?
He will be 6 the end of this year.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. No, so he and Lydia too far apart in age. I do remember that because she was a baby when Easton was born. So thank you for being with me today and just being willing to share your thoughts and what God's doing in your life and just kind of filling us in on what's happening with some of the stuff you and I have already talked about. But I'm going to go ahead and ask it so that other folks can sort of hear what's going on. So just give us a quick update, just kind of life in a nutshell. Maybe since we're talking specifically about, in terms of a graduate, like tell us a little bit about your education, your background, your goals. This is not a job interview.
Okay, I am a tad bit nervous, but no. So I just recently graduated. I graduated in December. I was due to walk in May, but with all of the fun COVID stuff going around, graduation was basically canceled. I have been attending college for 7 years, which is a really, really long time. But I've come out with 2 degrees and 4 certificates. So I actually had started with an internship in my field, and I enjoyed it. I really did like it, but I got another opportunity at a different, kind of like completely different area. Still similar. I went to school for medical office administration, but now I work for an insurance company, and I do medical claims. So it's still in the medical field, but I'm not like with the public. I work alone in a cube. So not really what I had planned for my career, but I do enjoy my job. So it's a little off the trail, but it still plays in. So that's a little bit about that.
Yeah. Hey, that's helpful. So the degree that you just graduated with was medical office administration.
Medical office, yes.
Okay. Well, very good.
And then I graduated in 2017 with general education.
Okay.
So there's that.
Yeah. So are you do you feel like right now what you're doing is what you want to continue to do, or like what are your goals? Are you doing right now?
I like where I'm at in the job I'm at now. It gives me plenty of flexibility within my schedule, so I'm able to drop Easton off at school, pick Easton up, attend, sports games, whatever, so be it. He's in the midst of doing, without having like a set obligation working 9 to 5. So I do enjoy that. I'd like to stay here for a few more years. I've been here for 2 years now. And then I'd actually like to transfer out to a hospital.
Yeah.
Specifically Pineville, CMC Pineville, and do some work there in one of their offices that they have located inside the hospital. But I know that would require a more strict schedule, and right now I'm just not willing to give that up.
Yes.
So eventually that's where I'd like to be, maybe when Easton gets a little bit more older. But that's that's my end goal, to be in a hospital. And I think the experience of already working in a medical office, and then the experience of having some insurance background will give me more opportunities there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd like to end up in a hospital, like working specifically for CMC panels. But
Yeah. I love it. You've got goals. You're just like getting it all lined up, all those awesome experiences so that you can do what you want to do. But it's very cool that you have the flexibility to be available to Easton.
Yes, most jobs don't have that. And I found that out very quickly when he was a bitty, that jobs don't care what you have going on at home, you know. So I did get very lucky in finding this job. I was actually working with somebody else who referred me there. And I had gone through 2 interview processes with them, one for customer service, which is not as flexible, and then one is claims specialist, which is what I do now, and they are flexible. So out of the 2 interviews, I got the one that was more flexible, which was very good. I wasn't going to complain either way, but it's nice to have that.
Yeah. So good. Well, one of the questions that I had was just in this really strange time as a person finishing up school, entering, and you've already been in the workplace, it sounds like, but just kind of wrapping up that season of your life as a student. For now, we're all lifelong learners, right?
For now. Yeah.
But are there any like specific biblical truths or scriptures that really have just brought you encouragement in this long season of preparation?
I actually really like one, and I have it right here. So give me a minute while I read it. Okay. It's Proverbs 3:5-6. It's trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. So for me, that is one I've kind of stuck with. Somebody shared it with me a long time ago, and it's just always stuck with me. I started college right out of high school, and then I got pregnant. And it doesn't really hit you until you have a baby. And I was like, I'm going to be able to do everything that I was doing. I was working 3 jobs, going to school full time, barely sleeping. And I was like, I'll be able to do it all. I'll just add him in. And then, once you have the baby, you're like, oh, I can't do this. Like, this is no longer my life. And I was very conflicted. I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to finish school, but it was like, I have to have a balance. I have a little baby who needs me. I'm his support. So do I go to school? Do I finish school? Do I go and just work full-time job, to make things flow? And then somebody told me that, and I kind of just jumped for it. I was like, I want to finish school. And now I have even more reason to finish school. I have somebody who relies on me. And I kind of just dove right back into school head first. Wasn't sure, how my grades were going to come out, how the classes were going to work, because I was taking night classes. So I was working all day and then taking a night class, and that was no longer available. That wasn't, the way I could, a path I could take. So it was like juggling, where am I going to fit a class in? Where am I going to fit studying in? How am I going to afford college? And now I have a baby who needs all this extra stuff that I was just, at 20, I wasn't really thinking about. Childcare. Who's going to watch my child while I go to school and while I go to work? And that was told to me, and I kind of like, what? If this is my way, I'll make a way. And like I said, it's been a long time coming, a whole 7 years later.
Yeah.
But I've made it work, and I mean, Easton, I can say, has been there for both my graduations. I mean, and even though it wasn't the most ideal situation, I would not have had it any other way. And when he gets older, he can say, I saw my mama graduate twice.
Yeah.
You know, and that makes me very emotional. Because I did it for him.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's amazing, honestly. I'm so inspired by what you've done. And I think anybody listening would be. And I guess this is kind of an off the list question, so don't get me for this, girl. But what do you feel like the Bible talks about, you know, how the Holy Spirit produces good fruit in our lives, the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. But I'm curious to know, just in terms of like good fruit that has been born in your life in this season of planting and watering and storms that have come, and like, what are some of the things that you're kind of beginning to see? Like, you're still just barely, you know, like on the other side of the graduating and kind of entering this new transition. But I know you said you wouldn't have changed anything, but what do you mean by that? Like, what good has come out of this in terms of your character and the things that you see in yourself that have grown?
In high school, you know, there was always a competition between me and my sister. My sister, you know, didn't have to study for anything, got straight A's all the time. I was constantly struggling. I was constantly having to study. And I, in a sense, became very jealous of my sister. You know, like, I don't know, why does she get to do this and she doesn't have to study and she just gets A's. And with me, I was like, goodness, like, I can't go do what I want because I have to sit in and study, or else I'm not going to get that grade. And kind of going through college, it's a totally different experience. I did very well in college. But, you know, having Easton, it was like there were times pride, like even before he was born, I was like, you know what, maybe this just isn't for me. But when he was born, I was like, okay, I want him to see that whenever it gets hard, you still need to push through, because you can do it. You can do anything you set your mind to. And I'm going to, you know, as he gets older and he's going off to college and doing things that may seem tough for him, you know, I can always go back and be like, you know, I wasn't good at school. It was very hard for me to get the grades I've got. But because I worked hard, because I pushed through, because I didn't give up, you know, I was able to come out, have a few degrees, a few certificates, and I was able to provide this life for us, and show him that hard work and dedication and not giving up just because you feel like things you can overcome it. And if you just work hard, you can become and do whatever you want to do. So I feel like self-esteem wise, it has boosted me because I'm like, okay, you know, even though there are people out there who just naturally get it, who just don't have to look at a book, flip a page, do nothing, you know, and they just know I can work hard and know just as much as they can. You know, it may take a little bit more effort, but that's what I need to do.
Yeah. And you can see, I can see just talking to you that
a lot, you know, there's a lot.
Yeah. I can see just hearing you talk to that. I can just see like that there's just this confidence that you could, whatever comes, you know, that you're just going to be able to do what you set your mind to do, like you said, with hard work.
Yes,
it's not some big mystery to success anymore, right? It's like, okay, well, whatever I'm going to do,
right.
Work, I know what I need to do, kind of dig in and do the hard work. That doesn't come easy.
And Easton's No, no, and Ethan's at the age, you know, he's like, oh, I can't do it. Oh, I can't do it. And I'm like, you can, you know, you can do it. Like today I had him practicing his numbers and his writing. He's ambidextrous, so he has a hard time deciding which hand he wants to write with.
Yeah.
And his handwriting is awful. So we've been sing, and he's like, I can't write this number, Mama. I can't do it. And I'm like, you can do it. You know, you can. But, you know, as he grows up, I'm always going to be completely honest with him. You know, I struggled, but even though I struggled, I've come this far.
Yeah.
And if I can do it, you can do it, type of deal. That way he knows he's not alone. I felt very alone, you know, because my sister, she just knew. I didn't have anybody to study with. She's like, well, I ain't got to study with you. I already know. So, you know, there's people who just get it, and there's people who have to work for it. And I just, you know, I just want him to know that that's okay. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to not know everything. But he'll get where he wants to be if he puts effort into it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so encouraging to hear, especially, you know, for those of us who are raising kids. Like, you know, I've got multiple children, and you're right, for some things come very easily and some they come harder. But we can do hard things, right? And God's strength. And
yeah.
I love the verse where we read that God's power is made perfect in our weakness. I think that is so encouraging, because I think when we feel weak, we feel we realize that we have a weakness. We try to hide from it, or we try to not let people know about it. But instead,
right.
It's like this wild shift that can happen where it's like, no, in fact, Paul says, I'm going to boast in my weakness. Like, I'm actually going to talk about my weakness, because that's where God shines the best. His power is made perfect in our weakness. And
yes,
that encourages me, because that my flesh, my human nature wants to do the opposite. Like, I want to be like, oh,
right.
I don't see that weakness. I don't want to talk about that weakness.
And I mean, it actually didn't hit me until, you know, I'm older. Like, this is not okay. Like, you know, I shouldn't not know this stuff, or it shouldn't be this hard to get it. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, okay, you know, we're not all the same. You know, so-and-so may do something better than I do, or I may do something better than some other person. But, you know, our weaknesses are what makes us who we are.
Yeah.
And for a really long time, like you said, I've tried to cover it and be like, you know, that's not part of me, you know, you know, but then by doing that, you leave a part of yourself out.
Right.
But I don't ever want my child to feel, you know, that something's wrong, or he shouldn't, you know, you know, he needs to be faster than the next kid, or jump higher than the next child, or always comparing himself to somebody else.
Right.
More or less.
Right. I heard a parenting expert was once talking about how we tend to praise our kids for the things that they do really well, and kind of like highlight that and focus on that. And I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about building resilience, which is kind of what we're talking about today. Like, as like you're sharing in your story, you just became more and more resilient with challenges, realizing that with each challenge that you could overcome that by trusting God to order your steps, and to just, you know, follow him along the way. And he was providing for you along the way everything you needed. And but she was talking about how really what we should do is, when we see our kids try hard things for them, like things that are not natural for them or aren't in their wheelhouse, that those are the things that we should encourage them in, and recognize, like, you did a really hard thing. I'm so proud of you for trying something that didn't come naturally to you, that took courage to do, to step out in faith, or to step outside of your comfort zone. And I think that's good advice for us adults too, right? It's like, We tend to want to stay in that one thing that we know we're good at, like don't do anything else. And I think when I hear you talk about your story, it's really encouraging to me because you stepped out and you did hard things. You did things that didn't come easily for you. And it took a lot of courage, took a lot of strength to do it. You had a cute little motivator too, I know.
Yes, very much so.
That helps. So we kind of touched on this a little bit, but particularly in this season with like, I'm thinking even in like the last 3 or 4 months with this pandemic, and I know you and I have talked about the challenges of having kids at home and trying to work from home and not having the normal supports like with daycare and preschool and things like that.
Yes.
In what ways in particular have you sensed God kind of calling you to lean into that or refining you personally in this season? Like, what kind of things have you had to overcome in the last few months? And just roll with it, girl. You kind of hear the question I'm asking here, I think. Any new habits, practices, or routines that have kind of helped you in this season?
Actually, a ton. So it's funny. I've talked a lot about how I was never good at school. You know, it was a challenge for me. Well, I finished my last class in December, and since this pandemic, I've gone a little bit nuts and have taken an additional class on my own time. That doesn't give me any kind of credit towards anything. But somebody it on Facebook, and it just caught my eye. It was something that I had to know about. I had to look into. With the pandemic, I've been struggling. I really like a good, straight schedule, and I have not had that. I like getting up at 6 in the morning, making breakfast, taking my son to school, going straight to work, being off at a certain time, and my whole schedule has been gone. I took this class, and it was just basically talking about, I felt my mood, you know, I felt very down being home. And then I felt even more guilty. Why do I feel this way? When I'm home all day with my child, I shouldn't feel this way. I have all this extra time with him. You know, what in my right mind is wrong with me? So when I saw this class, it immediately grabbed my attention. And it's talking about all the things that we think are going to make us happy. Our brain tricks us, and it's actually the things we don't typically think about that make us happy. So I took this 10-week class, and it showed different types of like skills and habits to add into your daily routine. And I've actually been implementing them here at home. So it's like getting out more, you know, just talking to people, random people you don't have to know. But, you know, I'm typically more of a closed person. I don't go out of my way to talk to people, you know, not to be rude, but I'm more reserved. And it's like, you know, if you do this, it's going to help increase your happiness. So, you know, Ethan and I have been going on the Greenway so many days a week. He's riding his bike. No training wheels, guys. Hurts my feelings a little bit. But going on the Greenway and just talking to people. Yeah. You know, so that's brought me out of my comfort zone. But it really has, you know, and you'd be surprised how many other people's day you make just by speaking to them on the Greenway. Yeah. And like doing things at home, it talked about take a few moments a day and just live in the moment. You know, don't let your mind wander, go several different places. And then at the end of the day, write about these moments. What did you do? How did they make you feel? How did the people you were with, how did that make them feel? And I've noticed, you know, Easton likes, you know, when I, instead of using my 15-minute break to fix him a snack, he likes Mom to sit in the playroom and like just watch him do his thing. And it was just little moments like these I was taking for granted because I was like, you know, I have to work. Easton, go to the playroom. I have to do this. I'm in this meeting. I need to call this person. And I mean, I knew it was a struggle for him because if it's a struggle for me as a 25-year-old adult, how does a 5-year-old feel? His whole world has also been switched upside down. So I've been including just these little things throughout our day. You know, I knew he was getting a little bit lonely, so I put him in summer camp. And now the days he's not home, I use my breaks and I'll do like a little meditation time for myself. And it's little things that I didn't know that I needed that have really kind of evened out everything. In the beginning, I was stressed. I was freaking out. I didn't know, you know, how I was going to juggle being a mom, being an employee, being a teacher, being a chef, you know, everything at one time. I'm used to doing this stuff at this time of the day, at that time of the day, at that time of the day. But how now do I do it all together? And I've just been using the things this class taught me and just added it in to our normal routine and just removed little things out that I didn't particularly need. And I've implemented, you know, like I said, we go on walks more. I just take my breaks and I sit down with him, even if I'm not doing nothing, even if I'm just sitting there with him, it makes his whole day. So even though it's been very challenging, and I'm all about routine, in the schedule and doing it this way, I feel like maybe I needed this. Maybe even though it's not the best way per se to change and get me out of my comfort zone, it was something I needed because I'm so used to that everyday habit, the schedule, you know. The pandemic threw me all off. And I needed that. I needed like a reboot.
Yes.
More or less to say. I needed that reboot to, you know, prioritize my goals, prioritize the people who I have, who need me, and stuff like that I wasn't doing before.
Yeah.
So although it's been very challenging, I think, you know, just the little things I've implemented have helped a ton. And I will continue. I'm actually looking at taking another class. Find something just to do to keep me busy and occupied, and in my free time, it'll give me. I'll continue to learn in my free time.
Yeah.
So
good. So good. There's I don't know if you've been in Right Now Media, but Right Now Media has a lot of good classes like that too, that just sort of speak to just the challenges of life and ways to overcome them, like with strategies and things like that. But I'm so glad. That is awesome. I feel like we all in the South, you know, have you ever heard that saying, like, somebody shook your snow globe?
Yeah.
We all had our snow globe shook up.
Yes.
And now we're trying to get the pieces back in, but they're not falling back in the same place, which I think for, like you said, for many of us, that is a good thing. We needed some, but in the settling of things, it feels kind of chaotic for a while. I think some people are kind of starting to settle in. People are at all different places, I think, but for you, it sounds like your boundaries are falling in pleasant places and you're getting some order back to life. And
yes, finally, it's been a couple of months, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
So, and it's, you know, doing things I wouldn't normally do, which is kind of weird, I guess, because I've been me for 25 years.
Right.
So to know now that I'm doing things that I normally wouldn't do. It's kind of odd. So we'll just see how it goes.
You're growing, always growing, right? That's a good place to be.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know this is precious margin time that that you're giving to us today, just to share from the heart, and it's so precious to everyone who's listening, and to me. I'm encouraged to get to talk to you and just hear about what's going on in your life. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, girl. I'll see you on the Greenway.
All right. Bye.
Bye.